On this episode of Just Informed Talk, goodbye, Mr. Rosenstein, as he announces his departure following the nomination of Bill Barr to become the new Attorney General. But Bill's history with Robert Mueller is kind of interesting, as they have reportedly been BFFs behind the scenes. And we're going to get another message from Trump and some remarks from Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. Plus, we're going to hear about this new hit piece from Will Summers over at the Daily Beast regarding QAnon, the conspiracy. Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to Just Informed Talk. I always start by saying thank you to all my subscribers. If you guys haven't hit that button, please come here to the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you're notified when these videos get posted. So today, we're still waiting for new Q posts. We were in a holding pattern. Obviously, the last one we got was on the 7th, a couple days ago. I have a feeling that more are just right around the corner, as they always seem to pop up just at the perfect time. Now, if you guys are scratching your head going, what is QAnon and what is this guy talking about? I always tell everyone to come back here, watch this video. What is QAnon, the Great Awakening? It'll give you all that information and much, much more. Plus, if you guys want to get caught up on the latest Q posts and everything that's been going on, I encourage you to come back here, watch these videos, share them on your social media, get the word out there, because there's a lot of information that we cover here on a regular basis. So it's always great to have you guys go check all of that out. So today's video, as you guys saw in the thumbnail, the first thing we're going to talk about is Rod Rosenstein. So, or actually, excuse me, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Let's start here because this is actually an even more interesting story. But it's just an update basically from the other last few videos that we've been covering this, where now she's missed her third straight day of oral arguments while recuperating from cancer surgery. Now, what kind of cancer surgery it was something called a lobectomy, where they actually removed two nodules that were found to be malignant cancer growths. Now, she's in recovery, and some people were saying that like a lobectomy is where they actually take out one of your whole lungs. So I can't imagine, but she is the oldest sitting Supreme Court justice, and there's an interesting precedent that's noted in this article that she could end up working from home while recovering from cancer, because it notes that the late Chief Justice William Rehnquist also participated and even authored several opinions while undergoing cancer treatment in 2004 and 2005. But that doesn't mean that that's necessarily what will happen here, and we're going to have to keep an eye on what's going on, because as you can imagine, I know this, if she were to pass and we had to put another Supreme Court justice in, you guys can mark my words that if you thought Kavanaugh was bad, just wait until the next time around when President Trump gets his third Supreme Court justice into or nominated. So we'll have to wait and see how that all pans out. Obviously, Q wanted us to look at this, and Q was telling us about this before it even happened. So there's some sort of foreknowledge there that would seem to have been present. And that, to me, is a story that we'll have to keep an eye on going into the future. Now, here is a post. There's so many of these. I don't want to go through each one because there's so much Rod Rosenstein. Q's been telling us that Rod Rosenstein has been on his way out for quite some time. There's probably, I can't even tell you how many posts. I mean, there's probably about 33 here, but there's probably a few more than that. And yeah, the whole thing about Rod Rosenstein, he was one of the guys who had to sign off on these, basically these illegal FISA warrants, right? Where they were using the FISA court, they were gaming the FISA court in order to surveil President Trump and his campaign in order to gain a political advantage during the Obama administration. And this is not, we're not like making this up. And this continued after President Trump apparently was elected, because Rod Rosenstein ended up signing off on some of these FISA warrants, which were all predicated off of evidence found in the Christopher Steele dossier, which we know was erroneous and misleading and fake, and that actual unverified intelligence report was then used as a source in a Yahoo News article, covertly, secretly, that was ultimately used by the officials who were seeking the FISA warrant. They used the Christopher Steele dossier report in conjunction with a Yahoo News article, which was based off of the Steele dossier, but not publicly stated as such. So they basically used these two pieces of evidence and a few other circumstantial things to get a judge to sign off on a FISA warrant predicated off of fake, unverified dossier that was never, ever verified by anyone in the intelligence community. So that's what that's all about, guys. And that's the story that's just coming out, where he has made this announcement that he is going to be leaving the DOJ in the coming weeks. And it says that we'll just read this really quick. It's not a very long article. It says, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein is expected to leave his role in the coming weeks. Sources familiar with the matter told Fox. Rosenstein wants to ensure a smooth transition for incoming Attorney General nominee Bill Barr and plans to transition out of the job in coming weeks, the sources said. Rosenstein long thought of his role as a 2-year position, and the 2-year mark is coming soon. Officials close to the departing Attorney General told Fox. ABC News was the first to report on Rosenstein's departure. Speculation of Rosenstein's departure mounted after the firing of former Attorney General Jeff Sessions in November. He has until recently overseen Special Counsel Robert Mueller's probe into whether Russia meddled in the 2016 presidential election, has been a target of Trump on Twitter. Was that what the scope of the investigation was, to see if Russia meddled, or was it to see if President Trump colluded with Russia? Get it right. Which one is it? While Rosenstein was never criticized by Trump as heavily as Sessions was, Trump has cited how Rosenstein signed a FISA surveillance warrant for former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. The president has repeatedly decried the DOJ and FBI's efforts to obtain that surveillance warrant, while blasting the Mueller probe Rosenstein previously oversaw as a witch hunt. Don't forget, Rod Rosenstein was the guy who appointed Robert Mueller here. So, meanwhile, Rosenstein has sparred with Republicans in Congress, especially former House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes of California, over slow walking its response to document requests, which in the House Freedom Caucus last year drafted articles of impeachment for Rosenstein, describing the effort as a last resort if their demands for records were not fulfilled. Trump nominated Rosenstein to the post in 2017. Prior to this role, Rosenstein worked as the United States Attorney for the District of Maryland. So that's the story there. And this is like one of the most telling parts here, where it talks about Devin Nunes calling him out for slow walking. And that's what they've been doing. Not only do you have him, Rod Rosenstein, signing off on FISA warrants to go spy on Carter Page, which we all know is that was all the predication was put around the Steele dossier, to get in there to gain some sort of political advantage on their opponents by using and abusing the FISA warrants to spy on President Trump and his campaign, and then creating this fake Russia hoax story as a cover for it all, using unverified materials like the Steele dossier, which Rod Rosenstein knew very well about, and now they're all slow walking it. You have the House, they were slow walking the first 2 years of everything. They were throwing every impediment they could in President Trump's way. They had Jeff Flake in the Senate. They had all of these rhinos in the House. They had no-name McCain in the Senate. Guys, it was a madhouse, and that's why the first 2 years didn't yield anything as far as many results goes, because we were cleaning out the FBI. We're cleaning out the DOJ. We're trying our best to clean out Congress and to get people who are obviously, they know that they're guilty, to resign. So there was so much going on at the time, and this is what they're still doing. Their tactic is to slow walk everything until the 2020 election. I hope people realize this. They're trying to, and now with the Democrats in control of the House of Representatives, this is only going to get worse and worse and worse with more investigations. They're going to subpoena Don Jr. to come testify for who knows what reason, because he put Russian dressing on a salad and had a 5-minute conversation with a lawyer who was obviously allowed in the country by the Obama administration. Loretta Lynch had to sign off on a special visa for her to come into the country, this Veselnitskaya woman that they're accusing President Trump's son of having a meeting with, when the reality was she was having meetings with officials in the government on the day before and the day after, not officials in the government. She was having meetings with Glenn Simpson and their Fusion GPS on the day before and the day after of the meeting with Donald Trump Jr. I believe that's correct. So you guys can fact check me down in the comments if I got that incorrect. But that among other things is what we're dealing with here. It's what we're up against, and it's the reality. It's the full scope of what's happening. But now there's something even more disturbing, which is it's so weird. So President Trump nominated this guy William Barr, Bill Barr, and who is Bill Barr? Bill Barr is the new pick nomination for the Attorney General. But let's read a little bit about Bill Barr and his relationship with Robert Mueller and others, because this is a fascinating read, and I'm going to read this whole story to you. This is out of the AP News, where they say the incoming chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee said Wednesday that Attorney General nominee William Barr has confidence in Special Counsel Robert Mueller and will let him complete his Russia investigation. This is Senator Lindsey Graham speaking, who said after a meeting with Barr, who led the Justice Department under President George H.W. Bush, that Barr has a high opinion of Mueller. Barr was spending most of Wednesday on Capitol Hill meeting senators on the committee before his confirmation hearing next week. Quote, he had absolutely no indication he was going to tell Bob Mueller what to do or how to do it, Graham said. President Donald Trump pushed out Attorney General Jeff Sessions in November and made Sessions' Chief of Staff Matthew Whitaker the acting Attorney General before nominating Barr in December. Trump's critics have expressed concern that Barr may try to curtail Mueller's investigation, which Trump repeatedly has called a hoax and a witch hunt. Also, Barr wrote an unsolicited memo to the Justice Department last year critiquing Mueller's investigation into whether the president had sought to obstruct justice by firing James Comey as FBI director. Graham said Barr told him about his longtime relationship with Mueller. Barr and Mueller worked together when Barr was Bush's attorney general between 1991 and 1993, and Mueller oversaw the department's criminal division. Graham said the two men were best friends, quote unquote, that their wives attended Bible study together, and that Mueller had attended the wedding of Barr's children. So his opinion of Mr. Mueller is very high, very, very high, in terms of ethics and character and professionalism, Graham said. Graham listed a number of questions that he had put to Barr. Quote, I asked Mr. Barr directly, do you think Mr. Mueller is on a witch hunt? He said no. Do you think he would be fair to President Trump and the country as a whole? He said yes. And do you see any reason for Mr. Mueller's investigation to be stopped? He said no. Do you see any reason for termination based on cause? He said no. Are you committed to making sure Mr. Mueller can finish his job? Yes. Graham said Barr said that if he were Attorney General, he would err on the side of transparency when he eventually received Mueller's report. The senator said Barr also told him that he has a high opinion of Rod Rosenstein, the current Deputy Attorney General, who has so far overseen the Mueller investigation, and is expected to leave office if Barr is confirmed. All right, so you guys make of this as what you may. There's some interesting things. You know, one part that I thought was interesting is where it talks about how basically he wrote they said that he may try to curtail the Mueller investigation, which Trump's repeatedly called a hoax and witch hunt, because he wrote an unsolicited memo to the Justice Department last year critiquing Mueller's investigation into whether the president had sought to obstruct justice by firing James Comey as FBI director, which we all know is not true. There's no way you could consider what President Trump did in firing James Comey an obstruction of justice. If anything, it was enforcing justice by getting rid of James Comey after all of the lies and all of the ways that he subverted the integrity of the FBI and misused his power as the director. So, or misappropriated his power as a director. So that to me is hopeful. And then, but it's weird when it goes in the next one where it talks about, you know, he's an H.W. Bush, former attorney general. He's best friends, quote unquote, with Robert Mueller. Now, I don't know if this is just them throwing up a smoke screen to say, oh, look, you know, we're best friends. We know each other. We knew each other back in 1991 and to 93, and our wives attended Bible study together, and Mueller had attended the wedding of the weddings of Barr's children. Now, that could just be saying that back then Barr and Mueller were friends. That doesn't mean that, you know, Barr is necessarily deep state or anything like that. I'm going to leave that to you guys. Obviously, that's a matter of opinion, and you can read this however you may. But it is interesting that he's saying all the politically right things to get nominated. Basically, if he were to show any bias against Mueller, then it's just a matter of numbers, and it would be tough for him to get through with the House being the way it is. So I don't know. We'll have to leave it because I know it's a Senate confirmation, but then they have to go get questioning on the House, and then they have to push it to the Senate. It's all a very the process is very long and complex to get a nomination through. But yeah, I'm gonna leave this one to you guys because obviously I look at it and I see it a certain way, and I just thought I would share that with you guys. Now, here's another interesting story. So. To talk about Rod Rosenstein, since we were talking about Rod Rosenstein, here's a tweet from President Trump that he sent this morning, and it talks about billions of dollars are sent to the state of California for forest fires that, with proper forest management, would never happen unless they get their act together, which is unlikely. I have ordered FEMA to send no more money. It is a disgraceful situation in lives and money. And this is a very true statement that, and I agree with President Trump's actions here in removing that money because they should have been spending money proactively before these fires to clear the debris because they set up a perfect tinderbox in that area to start a fire by not doing their jobs and not being effective in doing their jobs. So that to me is that should not be put on the back of the federal government, and that should not be put on the back of the federal taxpayers, that there was inaction by a state and their agencies in order to prepare for and mitigate the risk of a natural disaster. So you can't pin that on the American people, and that's what California does a lot. They pin all of their problems on the federal taxpayers, and they take that money and then they use it for whatever other things that they have, all of their sanctuary programs and other things that we as Americans, I plainly disagree with, and I don't support it. So anyway, what's interesting about this is not the sentiment of the actual post, although it is something I wanted to talk about briefly. The interesting part is this right here. Some of the Anons over on the boards picked this up. Now, I don't know if this really happened or not, but what they picked up was that President Trump tweeted and he had two misspellings, and then he must have deleted the tweet and retweeted it. I'm not sure if this happened because I wasn't around at that time of day. I wasn't looking at the board. I didn't get the tweet. But this looks like a verified, it looks like a legit post capture. So I guess he posted this and then he deleted it and reposted it with the correct spelling. If that is the case, if this is a real tweet that he deleted and then reposted, then you can see here where he misspelled forest with two R's. Well, who is two R's? RR. Who is that? Oh yeah, Rod Rosenstein, who's gone today. Another wink and a nod to all of us Anons out there and what we're doing today. So I thought I'd bring that to your attention. Now, here's a great little diddly from Will Sommer, of course, the man who I can't tell you how much I appreciate his crack journalism and how he gets he almost gets every fact wrong in a story in his stories about QAnon. It's pretty incredible. But anyway, that in my opinion, in my humble opinion, okay. But it says, of course, the slimy part is ran by Will. And it says, this is over at thedailybeast.com, of course. And it talks about a QAnon-believing Proud Boy who is accused of murdering his lizard brother with a sword. Now, this is a crazy story about a guy whose name is Bucky Wolf who spoke about how there was reptile people. Obviously, a very mentally disturbed individual. Obviously, some sort of mental illnesses involved there, probably multiple illnesses. And anyway, it's like this is just a complete hit piece against Q. You can read through this story where it talks about, first off, it actually, I give Will credit because he managed to tie all three. He managed to tie the Proud Boys in with the with the QAnon movement with Alex Jones, all in this same story. So, kudos to Will Sommer. That's like the trifecta. You did pretty well there. You got us all in on this because obviously you're going to take the this one example of a one-off situation and apply it to the rest of us, making the insinuation that we're all basically crazy conspiracy theorists who believe in reptile people. And the Illuminati, which I'm not even going to comment on those because we all know, we all have different opinions on that. And that's what I love about is diversity of opinion. And that's what Will doesn't seem to like. But anyway, you read through this story and it talks about what happened. It's really a disturbing story. This guy who's obviously mentally ill ended up harming his brother, killing his brother. It was a very sad story. But apparently they went and looked through his Facebook pages and they found out that he was a part of the Proud Boys. And then it talks about, how the leadership of the Proud Boys said they never let him in because of mental issues. But they point out in the article that they saw pictures of him in public with Proud Boys. Well, okay, so he went to a place where the Proud Boys were. It doesn't mean he was a part of them, even if he claims he was. But I'm just going to leave that at that. Then is where it gets interesting. It talks about how he also appears to believe in QAnon, the baseless pro-Trump conspiracy that posits Trump is engaged in a shadowy war against a secret cabal of pedophilic global elites in the Democratic Party. Well, you almost got this perfectly right, except for this word right here and this word. I mean, seriously, it's baseless. Come on, Will. Come on, do your research. I want you to do some research. Come join us. The water's warm. You come right in, and we'll welcome you with open arms if you will write stories that don't just get it completely wrong. Please. Of course, they said that this guy put on his social media, this guy who's been accused of this crime, that he, where we go one, we go all, and telling people to share Q graphics, and, okay, so there's one mentally ill person who decides to look at Q and believe it. That doesn't mean that Q is responsible for his actions. Let's just throw that out there. People are responsible for their own actions, Will. It's not our other people's faults that people do crazy things. Okay, Will Summers, please follow me here. I can't stand Will, but I love Will. Come on into the water. You can become a believer, and we can do some real reporting over at the Daily Beast if you are so up to that task. Anyway, then he talks about the guy who was on the Hoover Dam, and talks about how the guy talked about swords, and how this guy had a YouTube channel, I guess, where he declared that Trump would soon triumph over his enemies in a cataclysmic event QAnon believers called the storm. Well, the storm is upon us, Will. It's not coming. It's here. Anyway, it's just, I hate to laugh. This is a sad story. I pray for the family of these people. And, of course, this is the one part I had to point out here at the end, where it says, Wolf described himself on social media as an avid consumer of other conspiracy theory content. In one comment, Wolf said he had watched almost every episode of Alex Jones's InfoWars conspiracy theory show. So did you see how Will did this expertly? He tied the Proud Boys with QAnon with Alex Jones. I guess we're persona non grata now. I guess we're the next target of the mainstream media's attacks, because we ask questions. That's all we do. We ask questions, and then you take an example of somebody who goes out and does something horrific, which we pray for the family for. Pray for the family of these people, and we pray that that God welcomes this brother who lost his life into his arms. But look. This is what this kind of reporting is leading to. You're basically lumping us in with people who are mentally defective, obviously, right? People who would commit that kind of crime are not the people that I would consider mentally astute or aware or like here with us in the real world. These are people who have mental illness, okay? And there's so millions and millions of people out around the world who are following this, who just want the best for the country, or just patriots. And then they write stories like this, slimy story from Will Sommer. It's sick. It's sad. And we pray for the families of the people involved. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and look at this video clip real quick. This is basically, they had a meeting today after yesterday's address to the nation, where President Trump urged basically Congress and their officials to take action when it comes to approving funding for the border wall, because border security and national security are intrinsically the same thing. And this is what happened at the meeting. I guess basically they went in there and said they're not going to do it, and President Trump basically got up and said, all right, well, if you're not gonna move 1 inch, and you're not gonna actually negotiate, if you're just gonna say that walls are evil, barriers are evil, shrub hedge lines are evil, berms are evil, dikes are evil, any type of wall, a dam is evil because dikes and dams, they hold back water, so that's evil. We should get rid of those, and then people will be drowning. I mean, I'm joking, obviously. I'm being facetious, but that is not too far off from what their argument is. So let's go ahead and watch it.
Say this, if you don't understand financial insecurity, then you would have a policy that takes pride in saying, I'm going to keep government shut down for months or years, unless you totally agree to my position. I yield to the leader.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the president just got up and walked out. He asked Speaker Pelosi, will you agree to my wall? She said no. And he just got up and said, then we have nothing to discuss, and he just walked out. Again, we saw a temper tantrum because...
Okay, let me just point something out that really, really makes me upset when I watch this. Okay, let's just get this straight, Chucky boy. Let me just school you in on something. When President Trump says my wall, okay, and you say no, we're not going to give you your wall, and you're just and then you call him basically a toddler having a tantrum. Right? That's what your insinuation is. Well, let me school you in on some facts, sir. How about the fact that there was millions and millions of people across this country who voted for President Trump who want that wall? Whether they're Republicans, Democrats, whoever. They voted for him and they want a wall. And you and your obstructionist pals are doing everything they can to make our country insecure on our borders. And to me, it's despicable and it's loathsome to see somebody who gets up here and pretends that they took this oath in their, oh, I want the best for the country and walls, and then do the exact opposite. It's disgusting. It makes me upset, and I have to air this out. It's a grievance I have with the fact that there is no action being taken. And if you guys agree with me, let me know what you think down in the comments. Let's hear the rest of this.
He couldn't get his way, and he just walked out of the meeting. I asked him to open up the government, that tomorrow so many people will have trouble paying their mortgages, paying their bills, dealing with situations when they don't get paid. And I said, just why won't you do that? We'll continue to discuss. We're willing to discuss anything. And he said, if I open up the government, you won't do what I want.
Yeah, again, this is the mind games that the Democrats play. They're framing this like, oh, it's just this one guy, this one nobody who wants his way, and we're not going to let him do it because we know what's moral and ethical and right and just in the world because we're the arbiters of morality and ethics and goodness, and your sanctity should come from us. No, there are millions and millions of people in this country who are frustrated and angry at the fact that these Democrats are obstructionists who use this argument of, oh, it's just President Trump and his little wall he wants, and they make jokes about him and they make jokes about all of his appearance and what he, his insecurities. But let's just be honest, okay? Let's be quite frank, Chuck and Nancy and all the other Democrats out there. We're the majority who elected the president to have an agenda that he told us he was going to effectively do during his nomination. So we democratically elected him to do it. So when you say it's just President Trump, I really get upset because it's not just President Trump, guys. And I think all of you will agree with me out there. It is us. It is millions and millions and millions of people across this country who support Trump, President Trump, and his agenda and his initiative to build a wall to secure our borders. So when they frame this as it's all the Democrats who love peace and want open borders and want sanctuary cities and want to become this globalist utopia, okay? When they frame it as it's all of them versus President Trump, no. It's them and their agenda. It's actually the almost opposite. It's the top elites up in the Democratic Party versus the American people who support President Trump. The millions and millions of us who do it. Okay? I can't even. All right, let's just keep going. I can't.
That's cruel. That's callous. And that's using millions of innocent people as sort of pawns. And it was wrong.
Please don't start crying. Please don't start crying.
And then, a few minutes later, he sort of slammed the table.
Let's be clear. He probably just let his hand hit the table like that kind of. And they're like, he slammed the table like a madman. Thanks, Chuck. This is great.
And when Leader Pelosi said she didn't agree with the wall, he just walked out and said, we have nothing to discuss. So He said it was a waste of his time. That is sad and unfortunate. We want to.
It was a waste of his time because you guys never had one fraction of an intention to do any type of negotiating. You saw that he didn't declare a state of emergency. You're trying to force him to declare a state of emergency because you know that politically that will look good for you in the upcoming election cycle. So you think that if you can force President Trump's hand to make him declare this state of emergency so we can get this wall built, that then you can use that politically against him. I mean, it makes total sense now, and it's quite unfortunate that it's come down to this.
Come to an agreement. We believe in border security. We have different views. We've already offered the president our proposals, which has sat on his desk for several weeks. But this was really, really unfortunate, and in my judgment, somewhat unbecoming of a presidency.
But
Yeah, so there you guys go. I had to share that with you because I was watching that on TV and I'm like literally sitting there thinking to myself, this is what they do. This is the game they play. They frame it as it's them, this morally superior collective of globalist, utopian-seeking individuals who want, prosperity for all at the expense of everyone who works, and that to me it's just craziness. And then, which isn't really prosperity for all, it ends up turning into some sort of authoritarian kleptocracy over time. But that they frame it like that it's just them against President Trump, one man. But it's not. President Trump is not just one man. And I can't stress that enough. There are millions of us out there who voted for him who are sickened by it. So another great thing I found over here on Twitter was, this is so funny. I had to share this with you guys too. So you guys go ahead and watch this real quick, and we'll talk.
What else?
So why not sign the other bills, though, so some of these workers can get paid, the government
You
can
think I should do that? No, do you think I should do that, John?
I mean, it's not for me
I mean, I watch your one-sided reporting. Do you think I should do that? Hey, John. No, seriously, John, do you think I should just sign?
Well, the argument
No,
is...
tell me.
Sign these bills that have nothing to do with
John,
border
do you think I
security.
should just sign?
I'm saying that if you sign that, these workers can start getting paid, the government can
So
start...
you would do that if you were in my position, you'd do that.
I'm not in your position. I'm asking you if you've got something...
I'm asking you, would you do that if you were in my position? Because if you would do that, you should never be in this position. Because you'd never get anything done. Goodbye, everybody.
Epic trolling of the fake news media by President Trump, basically calling the reporter out. It's like, why would you ask that question? Because what he's asking is like, it's not even that it's not why would he ask that question. It's more like, why would you phrase the question that way? Because you're basically insinuating that there's a right and a wrong answer. You're saying, why wouldn't you just sign this so that the people who are working, the Border Patrol, all of them can have their checks? And President Trump turns around and says, well, would you sign it? Like, kind of just completely flipping the script on these people and saying, well, you're making the insinuation that if you were in my position, you would sign this bill, right? And then he basically calls him out for being a weakling and feckless because he would never get anything accomplished as far as negotiations go. If you're just willing to turn over and flip over at the first sign of trouble, you're never going to be successful in business and in negotiating and in life. And that's a true principle that doesn't just translate from it into business. It translates from business into politics and everything else. So that's where we're going to sign off. But a few more things before we go. Stick around. First of all, help out the channel. Come here, click the big red subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications. That helps out big time. Watch these videos. Share them on your social media. Make sure you get the word out there. Also, don't forget to leave your thoughts, theories, and insights in the comments. I want to hear what you guys have to think about all of this crazy stuff that we covered. I'll leave links in the description, all the other stuff. If you guys want to help out the channel financially, demonetization is real, and there's a crowdfunding website called Patreon. That's patreon.com. You come here, you search Just Informed Talk, or you click the link in the description after the video here, and you can click this button to become a patron. It's a monthly donation, and when you guys support the channel, that's what keeps this content coming 24/7, 365, because I depend on you guys, and I'm so thankful to each and every one of you who come over here and support the channel on Patreon. And if you're not interested in doing the monthly donation, I set up this GoFundMe webpage where you can make a one-time anonymous donation, and I'll leave links to both those in the description if you guys want to help out the channel. Couple other ways to help out the channel. Check out my Twitter. Come over here and find me at Justin_Formed, of course, and give me a follow on Twitter, and you'll get all my funny, cool, clever, ha 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 tweets. You'll love it. and that's a cool thing. Also, come check out justinformednews.com. It's Just Informed Talk's official website, where you get links to all the Q stuff. You have links to all the different news outlets. You have some live news feeds, and you get all my content here posted. And it's a cool website. It's just a tool for you guys really to use. So I appreciate you guys helping and checking out all of those great ways you can help out the website. So with that being said, we're going to sign off here. But before we go, we're going to do our most important segment, which is God's Grace is Greater. It's a segment we do at the end of each one of these episodes where we talk about God's grace and how it truly is greater, because we talk about a lot of negativity, and it's always good to remember God's wisdom. And we're actually going to talk about God's wisdom today in particular, and that is from Proverbs. It's out of chapter 1, verses 20 through 33, and it's talking about wisdom's plea. And I just want to share these words with you because, to me, I think that they outline how we should all perceive God's teachings and God's wisdom in our own life. And here, I'll start. It says, again, that's Proverbs chapter 1, 20 through 33. It says, wisdom calls out in the street. She raises her voice in the public squares. She cries out above the commotion. She speaks at the entrance of the city gates. How long, foolish ones, will you love ignorance? How long will you mockers enjoy mocking, and you fools hate knowledge? If you turn to my discipline, then I will pour out my spirit on you and teach you my words. Since I called out and you refused, extended my hand and no one paid attention, since you neglected all my counsel and did not accept my correction, I, in turn, will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when terror strikes you, and your calamity comes like a whirlwind. When trouble and stress overcome you, then they will call me, but I won't answer. They will search for me, but they won't find me. Because they hated knowledge, didn't choose to fear the Lord, were not interested in my counsel, and rejected all my correction. They will eat the fruit of their way and be glutted with their own schemes. For the waywardness of the inexperienced will kill them, and the complacency of fools will destroy them. But whoever listens to me will live securely and be free from the fear of danger. And I know that seems kind of rough, guys, but those words are words, if you understand the context and the meaning behind it, it's saying there are those out there who will never reach out to the Lord, and they'll never understand why their hatred of God's knowledge and their mocking of God is going to lead to their ultimate demise. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not trying to be a negative person here, but I'm just saying that, for those of you who think that living a life outside of God's will is going to get you into heaven and to get you many blessings and to get you the true success that is becoming spiritually closer to God and accepting God's grace and accepting the glory of Jesus Christ and your forgiveness of sins and your eternal salvation. If you choose to take a different path away from that, you just can't be surprised when the outcome is not favorable. You may gain all the riches of this world. You could become a billionaire and have everything and have cars and houses and boats and money and friends and all of that. But if you don't have God, you don't have anything. And when that day comes that your demise does come, which we all are facing the same mortality, we all are going to end up in the same place. When that day comes, I hope that you will learn that repentance is the way to enter God's kingdom, and God will always be waiting for you. Even in that last second, God will be there. So no matter what, God will be there for you regardless. And that's where I want to leave it. I want to say thank you for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Helps out the channel big time. Now's a great time to do it. But that's going to be it for me. I want to say thank you for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.